felt and loved her badge, number one. Number two, said that they felt more comfortable and they were just happy to see her wearing it. Like, I mean, like, it just doesn't even, you just think stuff is nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you think it's nothing, and it's not nothing.
Welcome to another edition of Off the Clock, the Healthcare Entrepreneurs Podcast. My name is Karl Born Jr., and I'm joined by my main man, Mr. Paulo Ching. Paul, say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's up, y'all? How you guys doing? I'm so happy to be here. It's a beautiful day. I'm glad to be alive, man. And Rona free.
Yes, sir. Rona free. So, as always, you guys know we love to bring you special guests. This week is no exception. Really, really looking forward to this episode. We have the lovely CEO of Reflections by Zana, Miss Aneesha Smith, who is also a nurse entrepreneur here on the show with us. Aneesha, thank you so much for joining us. How you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So
I am Rona free. Thank you.
Hey. Yeah, that's one of the qualifications before you come on the show now. So, Aneesha, we like to be respectful of our guest time, so we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. So, just right off the bat, tell us, why did you choose to pursue a career in nursing?
So roll back. So I guess maybe high school. You know, I was athletic, real smart, honor roll, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know if you know, but typically, you know, you kind of like your parents and your relatives will all kind of start giving you careers when you're young. And, oh, you should be a doctor. You should be this, you should be that. And the funny thing about physician or being a doctor was that I did actually want to be one. I think almost everybody, kids you ask, they want to be their pediatrician or their teacher, because those are the people that they typically see outside the house the most. And for me, it was really no difference. I think I did really want to pursue medicine of some sort. And how I got turned on to nursing was my senior year in high school. I was pregnant. I got pregnant with my son. So I was a teenage mom, honor roll student, athletic, and, you know, straight and narrow. So not your typical person that would typically get caught up in a teenage pregnancy of sorts. You know, my entire family was surprised by it. I was surprised by it. And I had a college picked out. I was all but admitted. I had toured, and they were like, yeah, all you gotta do is apply and you're in. And it was for a biology pre-med program. And so becoming pregnant, of course, completely derailed that. But my guidance counselor at school, she said, well, have you thought about nursing? And I was like, I mean, no, not really. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I hadn't really been in contact with a lot of nurses. You know, I myself was pretty healthy, never really been admitted, never really had a bedside experience before. But I said, you know, it's still medicine. I'll try it out. So I went to a college fair is what happened. And I was like super pregnant in my Catholic school uniform, attending a college fair for nursing school. And, you know, in the 90s, it's just not, it really wasn't very prevalent. Like, it was a scarlet letter situation. People like look at you funny, and it's shameful, it's embarrassing. And I went to Catholic school, it was all girls. So like, that was like icing on the cake for me. But it didn't matter. I still went, and I got in touch with a great recruiter who ended up telling me a lot about a nursing program that was direct admit. It was very competitive, et cetera, et cetera. You should try out. So that's essentially how it happened. I went through the process. I only applied to 2 colleges. They were both nursing programs, and I got accepted into both, and I got a scholarship into both. And so I chose the kind of more prestigious Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from, in their Francis Payne Bowling School of Nursing. And I had my son in February of 2000. I had him in February 97, and I started college in August of 97. So that's kind of how I ended up kind of in the field there.
You know, you made a point earlier how a lot of kids either want to be a teacher or like a pediatrician because that's who they run. I actually never thought about that before. Because growing up, I was like, I used to see my mom used to take us out to these airports. So as a kid, I just wanted to be a pilot my whole life.
Right.
And I never attributed the fact that all I'm seeing are pilots. So clearly that's what I want to. So just, you know, kind of with that same train of thought in mind, right? When did you decide to make the transition into becoming a nurse entrepreneur, right? And what was the most difficult part about it, would you say?
So I may not look it, but I'm over 40. And ever since I was very young, I had always wanted to do something for myself. I've been a real creative person ever since I was young. Everything from dance competitions in the street in the summer to, you know, like babysitting to I sold Mary Kay. I had an eBay store. Like it has been a part of just kind of who I am as well as a nurse for as long as, you know, I've been an adult essentially. And nurse entrepreneurship that I started to take seriously, I think kind of came in the digital era. I think, you know, you can only kind of go through certain avenues in the 90s or 2000s. You know, when I became a nurse, it was like Mary Kay or it was Avon. It was like these programs that were set out. And you didn't have all the avenues that you have right now. Like it just kind of almost exploded having that type of access. All of a sudden you can be a self-published author and all of a sudden you can, you know, become a our nurses are graphic designers, nurses that went back to law school, you know, have their own practices. They don't necessarily have to, you know, slide in under a physician directly. So, you know, having kind of solidified that and saying, okay, I really do want to continue entrepreneurship. I just kept trying at it. I just kept trying different things that I wanted to do. And, you know, pass or fail, I just kept going. And so before I started Reflections by Zana, you know, I did do self-publishing and we were doing self-publishing before everybody was doing self-publishing. We were, you know, I mean, it was a real grind trying to figure out how to get around the gatekeepers. And, you know, we learned kind of that business trying to get a book out, you know, and understanding how hard it is and who you have to know. And the genre was like a romance erotica genre, so it's already taboo. And so, you know, forging that and knowing that we could do that, we could put 3 books out by ourselves without all of this extra help that's available now, you know, you just keep going. I just kept going. We hung up we stopped writing and I still kept thinking of ways to be creative and to turn creativity to business. And so Reflections by Zana became the next endeavor. And so this is what I call my sticking point, you know, the point where you just keep throwing things at the wall, you throwing ideas at the wall, and then something sticks. And so this for us has stuck over the past 2 years trying to grow this is definitely. And so we've kind of done enough groundwork to not become overwhelmed with the growth. So that's where we are right now. That's kind of, it's always been in me. It's always been in me, entrepreneurship.
So with that being said, I think you made a lot of really good points, just even in terms of entrepreneurship is not easy.
Mm-mm.
And I think that a lot of people, when they first think about entrepreneurship, it's all flashy and they think, oh, nice cars and I'll be able to have all this money to do all this stuff, but they don't realize like it doesn't happen overnight.
It does
Like
not.
it's an endless grind before you get to that point. And so the question that I want to ask you from your standpoint, what would you say are the 3 biggest things that you wish you knew before moving into entrepreneurship?
I would say number 1 would be the importance of building relationships, and finding people of integrity to have in your corner, to find people who have been where you're trying to go. And typically millionaires will tell you this, you know, people who've already, you know, attained some level of financial success, they'll always tell you to, you know, try to find somebody who's been where you're going because they can have cleared a path or at least can set you on a path that will kind of help you propel, excel faster. So I would say building relationships is definitely one. The power of email lists and an audience, having an audience, no matter how small, having a dedicated audience that you can talk to. You know, we kind of like, and I told my son all the time, especially with him being born in the late 90s, that we were pre and post internet. We came up before it. We know what libraries look like on the inside, and we know what copy machines, how to work that. And, a fax machine, what is that? We know these things. And so, you have a little bit more of a, I guess, background that you can pull from when you're trying to step out and do something new. And I think that that's to our advantage. But something that we never did do, because you're just too busy trying to figure it all out, is to grab an audience and hold on to an audience and nurture an audience. And I would say that is definitely number two that I wish I'd have known. And I would say the third thing is not being afraid to think bigger. I personally don't have an issue with that. Unfortunately, I think, I'm super optimistic and I think really big. But understanding there are other avenues, financial avenues, mentorship and coaching that can help you. You don't have to be alone in it. And I think that self-employment and self-entrepreneurship is something that is still a group. It's a family effort. It does not mean that you are doing every single thing by yourself, because you're going to be moving really slowly. And we did come up with that because we were, all the little multi-level marketing, there was so much out, in the early 2000s. MLM was out, and, all you saw was me, my, and, everything was about self. And so that is really kind of what you almost have to share when you understand, you really have a passion in something. You really have to learn to get rid of the I, because you'll run yourself into the ground trying to do it all. And that is something I'm learning. How to ask for help and how to be okay with it. So I think that for sure, taking the I and putting in the trash can, as somebody that is a self-employed or, an entrepreneur of sorts that may be 1 or 2 person business, you will not be able to reach the mountaintop, if you will, by yourself. And that is something that we're taught, without knowing the ins and outs. We're not taught about the networking. We only see the final result. They never tell you that they had seed money. A lot of these success stories had seed money, they had grant money, that, all of this money to help them. They had resources, they had advisors, they had help. But the story is not sensational that way. And that's how we're built. So you get in it and you're just like, you see these people level up because they hired this person and they got in touch with this person, and they got in front of this person, and everybody was willing to help. And for some reason, that's not sexy. So that would be my big number 3, is to understand that small businesses need more than just the people running them to succeed.
I actually want to go in a little bit on number 3. All right. So you mentioned a little bit about network. And obviously, as all our listeners know, your network is your net worth.
Net worth, yeah. Right? I've heard that.
So I want to say you're fairly successful. So what has your process been like, when you're building your network, when you're trying to figure out who to connect with, who to partner with, and ensure that they're building up the success of your business? How do you go about building your network? And if you could, give advice to our listeners and tell them how they could do it, what would you say?
Okay, so that's a good question. It's there are several layers that I see it, and I'm gonna try not to confuse myself as I talk about them. But one of the reasons that I move slowly, in a sense, and like my husband will say, sometimes we just need to do things and like stop making sure things are perfect. When you're building on the ground level, I feel like that foundation does need to be solid. And in e-commerce, your foundation is your website. It's your calling card. It is, everything from how you package your products, how you thank your customers. If you care enough to reach out to talk to them, to thank them for supporting you. When people look back and they look for me, they're going to see that I took care in putting together my business, work of business, my website. I took care, if you go to Etsy, you'll see we have over 10,000 sales and 5-star review ratings. So Etsy recently took the star, like they added a number to the stars. Before it used to just be 1, 2, 3, 4. Like Amazon, there was no average. And now there's an average. So 5 is 5. 4.9, 4.8, 4.7. It is, you can see it. And if you go to Reflections by Zana on Etsy, it is 5-star average. And so people can, you building that up from day one with no audience and with no repeat customers. Building that network means that people, before they reach out to you, a lot of us, at least I do, we'll go investigate. We'll do a little bit of recon, kind of go see what this person's website looks like. How are you going to touch with them? Are they responsive to emails? What is their social media looking like? Unfortunately, we do that. Like, easily we kind of see what we're dealing with. And I feel like in this technological era where there's so many different ways to build, a lot of people that support me, I don't live around, we don't do lunches, but we support each other, online, and we support each other, in business and throwing work back and forth. So they see that I'm serious through the way that I present my business to them and the way that I approach them. And I think as a tip, in the beginning, I strongly believe in taking time to do those foundational things, to not rush those pieces, like having a responsive website or place of business that people can find you, and being polite and responsive, and having a business etiquette that is professional. And in nursing, we learned that a lot of that is not hard for me because, I'm always performing. When I'm at work, I'm always performing. So, so you understand the importance of customer service. And that's kind of my lead in, my second point that I just wanted to say. Whether you're business to business or business to consumer, how you treat people, like, period. Like, as a nurse, the whole visit of a patient, they could have seen 10 doctors. They will speak on the nursing care. They may say 1 or 2 things about the physician, but the nursing care is the hotel room. It just is. That's the way it is. The bathroom, the bed, everything runs back into nursing. And so, you really have to learn to take care of the customer relationship. And that's one of, it's a really big thing that we kind of gets badgered into us. And you kind of like, man, whatever, when you're nursing because you know your job. But when you try to parlay that into business, it's really important that people feel like you're approachable and that they can ask you questions, and that they, you're not kind of, I don't want to say snake oil in a sense, but just that you were valuing that you're valuing the building of relationships and networking. And that just is, how you present yourself from day one. So, all those things, you're not expensive things to do. They really cost 0 cents, to be honest with you. Just learning to build from the bottom and being genuine in how you deal with people, and valuing, the relationship that you have or that you're trying to build.
I love that, because it's funny. Me and Paul actually had a mentorship Monday thing that we did for a Black physical therapy group yesterday. And that was one of the important things that we listed, because someone asked us, what are some of the things that you think helped you guys to get to where you are, still being students, and one of the first things we said was that networking piece. And I think so many people really overlook that and think that they don't need people. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, you're only one person. If you're working with someone else that, like me and Paul are only 2 people. Thank God we have a wonderful team behind us. Shout out to our interns. But it's very important to be able to realize that. I think the biggest thing is putting your ego to the side and saying, okay, I don't know it all. And because I don't know it all, I need to be willing to ask for help. One of the things that I saw when I was doing a little bit of research on you And I kind of want to ask this question because it's going to lead me into my follow-up, and just because I don't think we did I don't think me and Paul did a good job of being able to let the listeners know exactly what Reflections by Zana is all about. So the first question I just want to ask is for anyone who's listening and they're like, okay, like we've heard her drop this name a couple times, but we have no idea what it is. Could you tell them, you know, what Reflections by Zana is and what that embodies?
So Reflections by Zana came about again in another venture that I was trying to figure something out, figure how to be creative. And my daughters came to me. They draw. They're 13 and 15 now, but you know, 4 years ago they were, you know, really taking a liking to art altogether. And they would come to me and they would show me their drawings, and none of their characters they were not Black characters. Now, you know, my husband is big on anime and sci-fi, so they had a lot of exposure, you know, just as far as different cultures. And, you know, they came to like a lot of characters that were not inherently Black, but then when you try to emulate and you have a variety there, they're lacking the variety. And so they just weren't seeing themselves anywhere. They weren't seeing their skin tones. They had nothing to really go on to emulate. So then you're learning art and you're great at drawing every other race but yourself. And so that kind of sparked me. And I was just like, there's got to be a way to expose them, to show them that Black artists are drawing Black characters and inspire them. And of course, for me, I'm not an illustrator. I do creative design and elemental design, and I like to put elements together. And so that's when I started the art piece of it, Art of Reflections by Zana, and then it kind of parlayed into a wooden badge that I started in 2016 for health, you know, for basically started as nurses for healthcare workers. I was like, this is awesome. No, nothing looks like this. Like there are no like cute little Black girl badges for professionals to wear, you know. All of the Disney princesses exist and all the animals and all, you know, all these little objects and things, but nothing that really amplifies us as Black professionals that we can choose from, that we can have a choice over. And that's kind of where it started, honestly. Honestly, that's really where it started. I posted it on my Etsy shop, you know, maybe a handful of sales at the time, and one nurse bought it. She shared it in this massive Black nurses rock group. And I've been busy. I've actually, because it's a hand painted piece of art that I do, and I've done about 11,000 of them, probably 11,000, 12,000, I don't know. At this point, I've done them for like I just had no idea. Like you just don't even understand the impact until you go back and look at all the orders. Like, oh my God, I've ordered over 11,000 pieces of 3-inch wood to do this, and these are for professional women and some men that value the choice, that value having something to choose from. We gave people a choice, and like you don't see that as it's happening because you're like, it's a badge and you go through 10 of them a year. But I have people who are like waiting to graduate so they can buy them from me. Like, how impactful is that? Like just something that's not even $20 that I put together, or like we were developing, you know, we have different lines now of enamel and PVC. Like we branched out, but it remains extremely exciting for our customers. They love just this piece. They love seeing Black women. They love seeing professional women represented. And I had no idea that it was such a sore spot for professionals when I started. And so we just kept going, and we kept developing more art, and we started putting them on accessories and travel bags and passport covers and all the things, all the things. And, you know, that's kind of where our growth stemmed from. But I'm telling you, as far as revenue, those badges, that has sustained growth. We've been able to reinvest over and over and over the years because of those wooden badges that I made. And I actually had to take them down for a little while because I'm really packed up and I'm trying to get ready for the holidays. Like I just take them down. People are like, can you please email me? Like, this is wood. It's wood in a retractable reel. But because they understand the quality and they know that I'm hand making them and they know they're customizable and they're unique, people will wait. they will wait. And so that's where we are. We've got everything else for sale. We have our Blackfish, enamel for sale. Like we have all these things, cute, colorful badges for sale, but people are waiting for my wooden badges. They're waiting. And so that speaks volumes for the impact. It really does. And that's just a thought, me trying to give something to my girls and show them that there are other ways to be seen, and that, now my girls draw almost exclusively little Black girls, and that's a beautiful thing. I actually had to just really introduce them to other Black artists. And I said, look at this, look at what is out here. I want you to make sure you learn how to draw everybody, but I really want you to be great at drawing yourself and people who look like you, and that's really just where it started from. And so then you find out that all these grown people are like, this is amazing. We're grown, we're professional. I've done lawyers, I've done judges. I mean, like, you just wouldn't be, I would never have thought that was where that was going, just something that's 3 inches tall, having such an impact. And so essentially, that's what we become, the place for you to go and get your representative gear.
Oh, Karl, did you want to ask something first? You can go ahead.
Okay. All right, cool. So, wow. First off, let me say, Aneesha, I don't know how often you hear this, but you're going to hear it from me. What you're doing is incredible. Like,
thank you.
We
thank
need that
you.
thank you. Like, our culture needs that. And my follow-up really is just from a standpoint of wanting our listeners to be able to hear this from you. I feel like we already have an idea of it, but I want to ask you, what is the importance of representation in healthcare? And I want to ask you that because when we look at healthcare as a whole, we're the minority.
Mm-hmm.
In every physical therapy, nursing, MD, Chiro, everything, we're the minority. And I think a lot of people who are not Black don't understand what it feels like to be a minority in a field such as healthcare. So that's why I want to ask you that question, because I think it's very important for people to be able to understand why that's such an important thing that needs to be discussed and needs to be talked about.
So I think first off, a lot of medical contributions just to this country were done by Black people. And we don't even really, like, you have to be an adult before you find these things out. So, that aspiration just at a young level is a reach. Maybe not as much now, because social media has brought a lot of groups of people together to say it's not just me. And now I'm in a network where I see other people that look like me. But, from growing up and, I've had, I went to Catholic schools from K to 12. Okay. I had a gym teacher that was Black, and I think that's it. And that's just an education. So when you go into nursing and you talk about, pouring your heart and being transparent with this individual that's supposed to take the best care of you, we don't even see that in the numbers, coupled with historical, terrible things that have happened. But we don't even get to really see ourselves in that emotion, honestly, a lot of the time. So having that, one of my kids are coming, having that, being able to just proudly have something that's so small that just, especially in the COVID era, like, there's not a whole lot we can control anymore. Like, what we look like at work, what we have to wear, how we interact with patients, it's all been very stringently set up for us. And having something just small and being able to relate without saying a word to a patient, as a Black nurse, or a Black nurse practitioner, or a Black physician, physical therapist, to see that title immediately without having to say it, or for them to assume that you're an aide or an assistant or the secretary or some other, individual, that's not the professional. It does speak volumes. It does speak volumes, and it validates. Like, we didn't really have anything to like validate like openly what we had accomplished. You know what I mean? Like, you just didn't have anything that looked like you that said nurse, or that said physician, or that that was regal and was not junk, what thrown together. It was made, and there was care in it, in the production and the presentation. And I think a lot of my customers feel just cared for. Like, okay, we see you, like, trying to see us. We see you. I know you got this profession and you're working on this profession. Can you please do this one? Can you please? It's just a badge, but like, it really isn't. It really isn't just a badge. It's a choice, and it's a voice before I say anything to anybody. And that, when you talk about representation, is extremely important. To walk into the room, and of course, behind the mask nowadays, you can smile underneath the mask, but you have to say who you are and who you're representing. And you just have one more thing that you're proud of that you can wear that says that for you, and says it on the way to lunch, and says it amongst the family members. And when you're, educating, and when you're doing all of these professional things, you can proudly have something on that looks like you, that speaks for you too, even if it's the Black Fist. And there were a lot, actually had a Twitter, real quick, a Twitter post that I didn't even know, like, I had an influx of orders of our Black Fist badge, and we were like, where is this coming from? And so we kind of reached out to one of our customers, and we were like, how did you find us? Because it's like weird. It was just a bunch, in a row. And they're like, oh, Dr. So-and-so ER doc had the picture up. She posted a picture of your badge on Twitter. And I was like, what? Like, I don't really mess with Twitter all like that. I have a Twitter account, but I'm like on Twitter. And so I went and found the post, and sure enough, she was like, her patient felt and loved her badge, number one. Number two, said that they felt more comfortable, and they were just happy to see her wearing it. Like, I mean, like, it just doesn't even, you just think stuff is nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you think it's nothing, and it's not nothing. And that, all of that goes into like why representation is important, and why any little thing that you can do to show that you are proud of where you come from and what you've accomplished, and that you are not ashamed to share that with others. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done in healthcare with the disparities in care and just the miseducation, and there's just a lot. But that, to me, is just a really fun way to get it going. It's a good way to break the ice. It's a really good way to put your line in the sand and not hide from, where you come from and what you've done. So.
Yo, listen, I love every part of what you're doing. Every part of what you're doing. I'm thinking, like, even as you're speaking, real quick, I'm just hearing, like, I'm imagining, what the experience has to be like with, for example, all the Black women in my life that are in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, like, the way I've seen during rotations, or like when I've done it shadowing, when I've seen just the patient's face light up just because somebody walked in that looked like them.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the opportunities that present themselves. So I love what you are doing and what it stands for. And, like, even to speak on it, it's just the fact that you've been able to build this. I'm not going to call it a brand. I'm going to call it a culture. You've built this culture of people that want to be in your circle, where somebody's willing to say, all right, I got to wait like a couple of weeks, a couple of months for mine
years
to come in.
I had a lady work, she held her badge for a year. I made her badge with a Haiti flag on it.
Mercy.
And she held that pin for her final year of nursing school, and she sent me a picture and said, I was finally able to wear it. I passed. Like That's crazy. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
crazy.
Like,
That's
oh my
crazy.
God.
That's crazy. So, and the reason I bring that up, right, is it cool if we talk business for like 2 minutes? Is that okay? All right.
Sure.
Okay. So, by social media standards, you are an influencer. I mean, period. You are an influencer, period. Okay. The fact that you're able to do this thing that's affecting people at such a deep level,
Mm-hmm.
every time you put something out, it actually moves. People make decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want
Mm-hmm.
to talk about that a little bit, what that journey was like. And the reason I'm bringing this up in particular is because I know a lot of people, like, you know, they'll have a ton of followers and then they're like, okay, because I have a ton of followers, it's this and that. But I know everybody's process is different,
Mm-hmm.
and not everybody comes out being like, I want 100,000 people to
Mm-hmm.
follow me, right? Some people,
Mm-hmm.
like, they want that. So what I want
Mm-hmm.
to ask you, one, is as you were building this out and you started to see the traction and
Mm-hmm.
that continued sustained growth happening year
Mm-hmm.
over year, were you thinking to yourself, I need to hit a certain number of people in my circle that's going to present, you know, these opportunities? Or were you just like, I'm just going to keep doing this every single day because people are
The
loving me?
second one. The second one. I'm already self-motivated. So, and I think unfortunately for me, like I need to grow my network. Like I need to get in front of people that can put my badges, they can gift them in thousands. Like that's kind of where I want to be. Like I want to be in stores per se, but like in hospitals or in nursing schools, like places like that, like niche, like, you know, HBCUs that have nursing programs and medical programs. Like that is for sure an audience I want to get in front of. I'm not yet, but I want to get in front of. And yes, very small shares, like social, you know, a social work group Facebook post will send 40 social workers to our website because they don't have anything out there that's doing what we're doing right now. And then they don't feel like the investment is a lot of money. They feel like they've got this token, this, you know, something that they can put on that shows that they've got their master's degree, that they've done the work, and it only costs, you know, $15. So it's like win-win, big win, you know. But I think the event, well, before COVID, you know, back to what you were asking, I think that networking piece was kind of starting to show itself with our pop-ups, because then you have immediate, you know, people throwing their phones on, they're filming our setup, they're like, oh my God, look at all this melanin goodness, oh my God, look at this, oh my gosh. And so COVID kind of shut that down. The traction kind of like, you know, we couldn't get that immediate excitement that we would normally get on the road. So kind of we had to turn and, you know, pivot a little bit and to kind of see where else we could situate ourselves to garner that type of excitement. And so of course you have to kind of turn back online and start looking for influencers online. Black Nurses Killing It is one of my favorite places to advertise, because those nurses absolutely pull the trigger because they feel like this is awesome and it's different and they look like me. And Black Nurses Killing It, the page in itself is pretty targeted audience by just by itself. So, you know, we get a lot. I've, you know, pictures that are posted on that thread that are in my badges that I'm not tagged because like I've just done so many of them. You know, you know, they're being gifted and they're here and they're there, and it's not a thing anymore. It's not a thing anymore to tag me. Like it's just like regular. I'm just, you know, regular item that you would get and where to work, and that's awesome. That's awesome. So for now, you know, the networking piece and the leveling up and trying to hit, like you say, a certain number. I do believe our plateau online. I mean, you always can throw more marketing dollars and ad dollars out there to get a bigger audience. But as far as like visibility, I do feel like trying to nurture relationships, you know, in the academic setting, to have our items available for the students there would be a really nice move. Yeah. Really, really, really good play. So.
Oh yeah, you're gonna for sure make that happen. We have no doubt, not for real. And just like you're trying to get it out to academic settings real quick for our listeners, don't forget that we also have our t-shirts available, right? They're free currently. They won't be free someday, and that day's coming up soon. So if you want your shirt, please text the word shirt to 321-384-6275. Again, y'all, that's 321-384-6275. Text the word shirt to get your shirt for free. While they're still free, because stuff's expensive, y'all.
I'm gonna text my shirt.
Hey, there we
My
go.
text, send me,
There
give
we
me.
go.
Yes,
go.
I definitely want a shirt.
There we
sure.
go. There we go. But yeah, I wanted to just say thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us and inspire us. I feel inspired right now. I'm just like,
Oh, thank you.
super rare, like to be able to feel this like level of like, holy crap, really crush this.
That's awesome. See, I have to parlay that in future, maybe early 2021. I mean, it's kind of in here, with helping other small businesses add these particular products to their store, because there are a lot of nurse entrepreneurs who do scrub shops, and they, that's a perfect customer for us to kind of help them build out this badge part, the badge piece of their shop. So like I have things that I'm thinking about, and helping small businesses with that grunt work, mentality, don't have a lot of money to have teams quite yet. Get started and just kind of bring out, some ideas that could make them some money. So absolutely. I love what y'all are doing. This is great. You perfect personalities, both of y'all. Very natural. Very natural.
Oh, stop it. You gonna make all this
I'm
melanin
serious.
just
I'm serious. Really. Really,
I'm
really.
going.
The voice is a lot on a podcast. I mean, it is. It kind of sets the tone, and just how you say what you say, and whether you stop and starting a lot, all of that stuff. You don't think about it from the listener's end. But yeah, voices are big. Voices are a big deal in podcasting. So you two keep it up for sure.
Well, thank
For
you.
sure.
We greatly appreciate that. And seriously, it really was a pleasure to be able to get you on from the moment. Shout out to Ruby. Ruby is our intern that runs our social media page.
Okay.
And so Ruby is the one, I think, initially that reached out to you to bring you on. She does her homework, and she always lets us know when she sees someone that is doing something amazing, such as you. And just really grateful, that she was able to help us cultivate this relationship and make this episode happen. We were excited,
Yes.
from the moment she started showing the page. And it's really a blessing, to be able to connect with other African Americans in this space that are making moves such as you're making. So again, thank you so much. But before we let you go, for anyone who's listening and they're like, this is their first time, being exposed to you, what would be some contact information or some social media information, whatever you want to leave with them?
Sure. So we have two websites. Our home base is Reflections by Zana. That's the name, the business name. RBZR, B as in boy, Z expressions, all one word, .com is our website. So rbzexpressions.com. That is where you'll find our that's our website. That's where you'll find all of the things that we talked about here today. And there's actually a collection called work badges that makes it really easy for you, if that is what you're interested in, to go and have a look at everything there. In Etsy, where I started, it's Reflections by Zana. That's just my shop name, and you can search for me by shop name, and I'll come up, and you'll see my logo, the cute little red headband, pink headband, Afro Puff Zana. And Zana, by the way, is my daughter's names, like the Z and the A. I have my 13-year-old is Zaria, and my 15-year-old is Anaya. And so I just took the Z, the A, and the A. And I know Zana's exists like as a name, but like the reason it's that name is because I took those letters and and did it that way. But that's where I am on Etsy, Reflections by Zana. And then If you'd like to shoot me an email, you can do reflectionsbyzana@gmail.com or niche, NEESH, @rbzexpressions.com as well. So that's pretty much how you get to us. I mean, if you go on Facebook, on our Facebook page, we're everywhere by our title. Like, I got all my domains as soon as I decided what the name was going to be. So it's Reflections by Zana on Instagram. It's Reflections by Zana on Twitter and Pinterest and Facebook. So if you type that in, you'll find us everywhere. And we do answer all of our instant messages on Facebook. And if you Instagram message me, I'm responsive there as well. So you can get in touch with us for the most part through social media. Email would be great, the best way, but you can definitely drop a line through Instagram, Facebook too.
Perfect. All right. Well, Aneesha, again, thank you so much for hopping on to talk to us. To our lovely listeners, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. If you got some value from this episode, which I know you guys did, please go send Aneesha some love. Let her know how valuable the episode was. Subscribe, comment, share, do all that good stuff. Leave us a 5-star review. And until next time, peace and many blessings.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Off the Clock. This episode was brought to you by the Accepted System. The Accepted System is a program that helps pre-physical therapy students get into physical therapy school without wasting time or money. Most pre-PT students go on to spend hundreds of dollars applying to multiple DPT programs, with the majority of them having less than 40% confidence that they will actually get accepted that cycle. You have been taught that regardless of all the work you put into applying, you really do not have much control over your acceptance into PT school. The truth is, you actually do. You can find help at www.preptgrindotc.com. This episode was also brought to you by Physio Memes. Physio Memes helps PT businesses to increase their referrals through word-of-mouth marketing by growing their brand with an online store. Physio Memes. Thank you for listening. Don't be shy to leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. See you next episode.